The Marvels is a bust. As Entertainment Weekly says, The Marvels goes lower, nearer, and slower with MCU's worst box office opening ever. And yeah, it's pretty big. It's a big cut to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvels, the 33rd installment in the MCU, premiered with a franchise low of $47 million domestically, reports ComScore. This is coming from Entertainment Weekly. Total internationally pulled in $110.3 million. Now, that is nothing to sneeze at, but as Entertainment Weekly says, it's a little bit more than disappointing. By comparison, Captain Marvel, the first movie in this, series of Captain Marvel films, it did benefit from being in between Infinity War and Endgame, but worldwide, its debut, its opening weekend worldwide was $456.7 million. It became the sixth biggest opening of all time. So what is the big problem here? Is it something more than the woke agenda that's being pushed? Is it something more than superhero fatigue? That's what we have to get to the bottom of, because this isn't something new. While this movie absolutely sucks, thanks to the additions of Brie Larson being in the MCU, nobody likes Brie Larson. Iman Vellani, she is a treat. She is amazing. She's great as Miss Marvel. It just sucks that this superstar in the making has to be put on screen next to Brie Larson, who is just a miserable human being by all counts. So this is coming from thenumbers.com. And we see here, November 10th, the opening weekend grossed $47 million. That's their opening weekend performance. It's not great. It's really not great. The first night, 6.6 million on the November 9th, the November 10th, another 21.5 million. It just seems to me that people don't care. And why don't people care about these movies anymore? Because it's not just Marvel. We take a look at something like Blue Beetle, which just recently came out back in August. It's the latest DC film. In its first week, in its opening weekend, $25 million. $25 million. That to me, that's absurd. Worldwide, it ended its run with $128 million. That movie was a lot of fun. So is it superhero fatigue? Or is there something else going on? Let's look at another DC film called The Flash. Its opening weekend, June 16th, was its opening weekend start day. $55 million. $55 million. For The Flash, for a movie that touted having Batman in it. Not just one, but two Batmen in it. To me, that's just crazy. But what is the core reason of this? Let's take a look at Marvel. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy was the last Marvel movie before the Marvels here. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And, well, this movie did rather well. With an opening weekend of $118 million, which, yeah, it probably could have seen higher, should have seen higher. But it ended its run at $845 million. $845 million. That, I have to say, is phenomenal in this day and age of superhero films. For so long, Marvel wanted to blame the pandemic. Hollywood wanted to blame the pandemic. But there's other movies out there that are doing well. It has to come to something. There has to be a reason why this is happening, right? Ant-Man and the Wasp, the movie before that. These are the last three Marvel films. You had Ant-Man and the Wasp, Guardians 3, and the Marvels. Ant-Man 3, first weekend, $106 million. Not too shabby for a little film called Ant-Man. But it ended with only $463 million, which, again, isn't terrible. Most movies would love to make that amount of money. But when you're starting to talk about these big films, these big superhero films costing between $150 and $250 million to make, that $463 million just doesn't cut it. Doesn't cut it. So what is going on? See, personally, I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I know a lot of people want to sit there and say, oh, it's superhero fatigue. People are just sick of superhero films. Well, you go and take a look at something like The Batman. That made almost $1 billion. You take a look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It made almost $900 million. There's not superhero fatigue because if there was, people would not be going to see these films. It would be across all the genre. The entire genre would be suffering because of superhero fatigue. But it's not. So what is the problem? I will constantly stick to this. Now, we know The Marvels was directed by Nia DaCosta. She's the first black woman to helm an MCU film. Okay, that's fine. Don't know why you have to make a big deal out of it. When you start making a big deal out of this stuff, that puts a sour taste in people's mouths. Congratulations, first black woman to direct a Marvel movie. It's a movie. Who cares who's directing it? Who cares if they're black? Who cares if they're white? Who cares if they're Jewish? Who cares if they're gay or straight? Just make a good movie. And that's a problem. That is a problem here. Because that's what they constantly push. Maybe it's not the studio doing it. Maybe it's the outlets that are at fault here. Because here's the thing. People are trying to blame the strike now on the Marvels not doing well. This is what happens when you don't have your stars going promoting your film. You could say the same about The Flash, but nobody was saying that about The Flash. Nobody in June was saying, oh, it's because the strike was going on. Nobody was saying that. Nobody said that about Blue Beetle. It's because the strike that the movie didn't do too well. No, they're saying that now because it's led by 3 women and directed by a woman. They're trying to take the heat off of them being a female-led, female-driven movie. But it's skirting the fact. We'll say it's skirting the fact that nobody likes Brie Larson. The pandering and the woke that they've been putting in a lot of Disney and Marvel things as of late have turned a lot of people off. But most importantly, the writing, the execution has been horrible. We've seen articles come out recently stating that, they're just going through the paces, trying to push stuff out as fast as they can. Kevin Feige is spread too thin. The entirety of the Marvel Studios is spread too thin. The VFX teams are spread too thin. You get Nia DaCosta, who's only ever directed one big movie. Not even a big movie. Candyman wasn't even that big. She's never directed a big film before. And this is the problem that you start to see. You start to see that, yes, there is a big problem with this superhero genre. But it's not fatigue. It is bad writing. It is lazy writing. It's lazy execution. The Flash, I thought, was a good movie. But you're not going to get people to go see a somewhat good movie if the last 4 or 5 films have sucked. And that is what has happened in DC. Same thing with Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle, I think, is one of the best, if not, it won't be. Guardians is the best superhero film this year. But Blue Beetle's right behind it. Blue Beetle's a damn good time. But nobody's going to go see it because nobody saw The Flash. A lot of people who did see The Flash weren't big fans, even though I thought it was pretty good. And then the number of movies prior to The Flash weren't great. The Marvels, first off, right now it's sitting at $110 million. At this pace, it'll be lucky to pass $500 million, which is crazy since the first movie went over $1 billion. But again, it's not superhero fatigue. It's that people are sick and tired of the lazy writing, the lazy execution, the constant pandering to different agendas that are out there. And yes, you can come at me all you want and say, "Oh, you're just saying that because where's the pandering? Where's the woke stuff?" Look, Marvel has been doing it since Endgame. Every single movie, every single project, they're trying to replace the males with females. That is why people call it the MCU. And let me tell you, we just read an article, we just saw a book come out that confirms all of this. We had discussion. There was a discussion with the director of Blade in one of those articles or in that book. And they stated that one of the original ideas that they almost shot was that Blade, a strong black character, an awesome black male character, was pushed, not to second billing, not to third billing, but to fourth billing in a movie that is supposed to be about him, where 3 women are the leads. Do you see what is going on with Marvel? People are sick of seeing that. They want to have good stories. They want the stories. They want the movies to honor and respect the characters that you're seeing. Here's the thing. The Marvels very much respects these characters. It does. But you've gotten to a point in Marvel where for so long now, for the last 3 or 4 years, you haven't been respecting the material. You haven't been giving us movies and content that we want to see, that even when a movie like this is coming out, we don't care. Nobody cares. Not to mention that Brie Larson is not an enjoyable person to watch. I don't know. People want to sit there and say it's fatigue. I'm not saying it's superhero fatigue. I'm saying it's lazy writing. It's lazy movie making fatigue. People are just sick of it. They want something better. They want something that has more substance. And I'm hoping that we start to get that very soon. I am. Let me know your thoughts. Throw them in the comments. I went a little long here, but let me know what you think. With all that said, I'll catch y'all later.